From the very beginning of this campaign, I've said that leadership isn't just about talking. It's about listening. That means being willing to hear from Oklahomans directly, answer tough questions, and have a real conversation about where we're headed. So today on Bold Ideas, we're doing something a little different. We've collected questions from voters across the state, people who care deeply about Oklahoma's future and want straight answers on the issues that matter. And yes, we're also going to have a little fun along the way. From education and public safety to what it's like running for office and even the nickname my grandchildren call me. We're covering a lot of ground today. Joining me is my good friend and moderator, Matt Parker. He's got the questions. I'll do my best to give you the answers. Let's get going.
This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.
Today we're doing something different, and I think it's going to be a great episode. Oklahomans from all over the state have questions. We've got a wide range of topics we're going to cover, from education and crime to Gentner's leadership style, his grandkids, and even a couple of tough political shots his opponent has taken on TV. So let's jump right in. General Drummond, thank you for taking the time to answer these questions for the voters. We've been getting a lot of these out on the campaign trail. You've been getting a lot of these questions. And so let's just jump into it here. Oklahoma ranks near the bottom, 50th in education. What's your specific plan to turn that around, and how will it be different than what others have tried before?
Well, what we've just experienced is several years of demeaning the educator and the administrator and second-guessing everything and stripping control from the local school board back to the state. What we have to begin with is we have to elevate the teacher. The teachers are the most impactful adults on the lives of our children beyond our faith leaders and our parents and grandparents. So these children are with our teachers for a long time. We need to elevate them. They are trained, skilled, and devoted public servants. They could each make more money out of the teaching profession than in. So that's one. Two, we have to take our well-meaning, emergency certified teachers and let them go back into the workforce. I mean, you and I could certainly go into a classroom and teach, right, on an emergency certified basis. But we have never been trained in the science of teaching. And these teachers have, and we need certified teachers in the classroom, 5,000 more than we have. To do that, we have to make teaching as a profession attractive again and recruit young people that are in high school or college to stay in the profession, want to stay in Oklahoma. Right now, we're training teachers, and they're going to Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Texas. They need to stay in Oklahoma. We do those things, and then we must take lessons learned from other jurisdictions that we've studied, where in some instances, they're at the bottom of their state in reading and became, in the course of 2 to 3 years, elevated to the top quartile. And it's basic fundamentals of phonics. So we take the child where they are and advance them and teach them to read so that they can read to learn. If we do those fundamentals, I think we're on the right path. But in addition, we also have to look more macroscopically, and that is, one, not every child graduating from high school should go to college or wants to go to college or needs to go to college. And if they're not going to do that and they're not going to choose the military, then we need to prepare them to enter the workforce. And we do that best by reintroducing SHOP so that they can see they have an aptitude for welding or electricity or whatever the trade might be, and then introduce them to CareerTech and re-envision how we deploy our resources in CareerTech so we get the most for our money. And to be more specific, we have worked diligently over the last several months to, we've recently released a schools plan. Voters can find that on our website, where we've talked about multiple areas of our public education that we need to improve, and that's there for the reading. But that's the template that will constantly be revised, and we have another 14 months of revision. What you'll find with me as a governor is not one who wakes up on the day he's inaugurated with an epiphany to go, oh, I'm governor. What you'll find is exactly what you got when I was Attorney General. Once I made it through the primary, I began working diligently on what are the deficiencies in the Attorney General's office. And in January of 2023, I rolled out with zeal and gusto those plans. You'll find a similar action out of your future governor.
Again, these are questions we're getting on the campaign trail, either through social media, email, or people have asked you at forums we've been to. Here's another one. I'm tired of seeing tent cities, open drug use, and people clearly in crisis on our streets. What's your plan to clean this up, get people the help they need, and stop this from becoming Oklahoma's new normal? We get a lot of people saying, too, don't let Oklahoma City and Tulsa become Portland. Don't let it become Austin. Like, how do you plan to fix this?
As I travel across Oklahoma, I have formed an opinion that Oklahomans are compassionate, but they also expect compassion with consequence. And what we have is homelessness that is a breeding ground for drug abuse, mental health, exaggerated beyond what it should be, which then also leads toward criminal activity. We see this now in my organized retail crime division, where our convenience stores are being overrun by people that are homeless and stealing. We have to change this. There has to be consequences to behavior. The compassion side, we need to provide wraparound services for these people. So many of these people that are homeless suffer from mental health. The mental health is either driven by drug abuse or it's driven by true mental health disabilities. We need to solve that. So many people are focused on sheltering and providing homes for, which is an important part of the three-legged stool. Home, we need to shelter, we need to provide the medical services, and then we need to provide work availability for these people.
So
we have to have consequences.
You don't want just a handout, right? You want to give them a hand up. Talk about your ideas around providing work for people that are homeless.
Right. If we simply hand out, then people generationally will become accustomed to being handed out. And I think that devalues the human being. We feel valued through our work, whether it's in the home or in an office, but we are valued through work. And what I think is missing in this equation is providing the sheltering, great. Providing food, great. Providing healthcare services, great. But we have to provide self-worth. And the self-worth piece comes through workforce. And so we need, as a community, as a state, provide opportunities for these people to re-enter the workforce, and so that they can add to our economy. They can add to their own care and feeding and get dignity back where it was once lost.
That's great. Illegal grows and drug crimes are a huge concern in rural Oklahoma. I've seen Chinese nationals working at these farms, and they even own the land. What are we doing about this?
We have attacked this problem. And I want the viewer and the voter to understand, when I took office, we had 9,000 licensed marijuana grow facilities and about 3,000 off-the-grid unlicensed, 12,000 illegal or illicit grow facilities, of which only about 200 or 300 were truly legal all the way through. So beginning with the formation of an organized crime task force inside my office, we have taken the battle to the Chinese and the cartels of Mexico and Central America. During the Biden administration, when we would bust the grow, we would take the 8 workers and Biden would have us release them back into society. Well, they would gravitate back to the next Chinese or Mexican illegal grow facility, and we'd see them again and again and again. Under Trump, now when we go in, if we know it's an illegal alien grow facility, principally Chinese or Mexican, then we have ICE embedded with us. Once we've secured the facility, we bring ICE in, they take the workers and deport them. Then we prosecute the leadership. And we're doing that day in and day out. As a matter of fact, just statistically, we have closed 15 marijuana grow facilities a day. For the last 2.5 years, we've gone from 12,000 to just over 1,600. And we have another 1,000 to go. And we will do that under my administration. But more importantly, what the questions that are asked out in rural Oklahoma is, what about the land? Shortly after taking office and busting hundreds of these facilities, I realized each time we came in and destroyed the plants and arrested the bad actors, we had a property that was an environmental waste site. Just last week, when I was at a grow facility, after we secured it and we began destroying the plants, I realized in the back of the facility were thousands and thousands of pounds of discarded marijuana stalk and stem and plant. 1, 2, the Chinese import chemicals to keep the pesticide down that is illegal in the state of Oklahoma. If you were to use these pesticides in your home, it would strip the lining of your lungs.
Oh, wow.
And yet we have those in these grow houses. So I look at this as an economic disaster site. We went to the legislature, and they now require, if you have not owned your land for 3 years, you must post a bond of $50,000. When we close a grow, I call the bond. We take that $50,000 and we rehabilitate the property. Now it's ready to be sold. And we, as the Attorney General and my attorneys, launch civil asset forfeitures, not just against the vehicles and the cash and the guns, but also the real estate. We have 78 active civil asset forfeitures against the real estate, and we have 200 in the queue.
Wow.
We have limited resources. My adversaries say Drummond spends so much money, he's made his office big. Well, I've made my office big because we have big problems in the state of Oklahoma. We can have a do-nothing attorney general, or we can have an attorney general that delivers the promises that the people need. And that is shut down the legal grows. With that, shut down illicit distribution and production of fentanyl, and shut down human trafficking and sex trafficking. 1 out of 5 grows we go to, there are women kept there for purposes of sex trafficking.
Wow.
And we have to liberate those women and get them the help that they need, and just stop the blight that is attendant to the illicit marijuana grow activities of Oklahoma.
Okay, speaking of marijuana and the cannabis industry, somebody wrote into the campaign, isn't it hypocritical that you say you're fighting to shut down marijuana grows, yet you bank business owners in the cannabis industry?
As a preliminary matter, so many of our viewers don't understand that I'm also a banker. In addition to being a rancher and a lawyer, I bought a little bank in 2003. Now it's a big bank in 17 communities in Oklahoma. So I'm a banker. When Oklahoma voters voted to legalize medical marijuana in 2018, there were unintended consequences to that vote. We as a state did not take appropriate precautions to stop the floodgate of illegals coming into our state. We should have built a wall at the Red River. We didn't. We were infiltrated from China and Mexico through Mexico on the open border that Biden permitted. And as a result, we have thousands of illegal operators in the state of Oklahoma. I have devoted the last 3 years of my life to shutting down these illegal operators. Full stop. The voters approved it. There are good Oklahomans who invested their life savings in the cannabis industry, whether it's production of marijuana, processing of marijuana, or retail distribution of marijuana. The voters approved it. They are complying with the law, and we need to provide them an avenue through which they can take their dollars and deposit them into the economy. I became aware shortly after marijuana was legalized that I was losing security guards from my banks. And I was like, why are you leaving me? I pay well, it's great benefits. Like, we can make twice as much sitting in a Tahoe looking at a cinder block building with no windows, one door, full of cash. And that informed me. We have all of these dollars not in our economy. As an economist by training, I know that every dollar spent at a retail store benefits Oklahoma 7 times. So as a responsible Oklahoman, I want those dollars in the economy. And to do that, we have to bank legal marijuana cannabis operators. So I have a robust set of officers and employees at Blue Sky Bank that receive applications and vet them, and they deny 9 out of 10 applicants. Now, it may not be very for egregious activity, but it's curious if they are really 75% owned by Oklahoma, by Oklahomans. Perhaps they don't have a certificate of occupancy. Perhaps their Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority license is expired or is in probation. We don't touch them. You've got to be squeaky clean and perfect, an absolute dotted I, crossed T operator to bank in my bank. And how we accomplish that is we vet them. We use all the Federal Reserve facilities available to us to make sure that these people are legal Oklahomans in the industry that Oklahomans have approved. And then We take their deposits. We never touch it. It's picked up by a courier and taken to the Federal Reserve office in Oklahoma City, where it's reintroduced into our economy, and it benefits Oklahomans. So to those who would chastise that activity, I would say you're dealing with a bold, informed attorney general and businessman who is unafraid to do the right thing. And those who would attack me are cowards or uninformed.
Yeah. Well, speaking of opponents and adversaries, there are one of your opponents has two strong ads on television. One where he's chopping bananas and claiming that he'll protect kids from radical gender ideology, insinuating that you won't, because the other attacks you, flat out saying that you worked with the ACLU on this issue, not conservatives. So we're getting a lot of people writing in, is this true? Do you really support did you really stand with the ACLU on this issue of gender reassignment surgeries for minors?
It's funny how candidates that are do nothing or know nothing try to claim my good actions. So when the legislature passed the law that said you cannot mutilate a child under 18, we knew we would be attacked. What we didn't know is we would be immediately attacked. The law was passed. The ACLU sued me the next day. The federal judge set it for a show cause hearing 4 business days later. There is no way I could win that show cause hearing. And for the viewer that's not...
I know what show cause hearing. I'm not a lawyer. So
right, no, that's right. For those who are not aware of what happened, so the ACLU moved for an injunction to stop Oklahoma from protecting children. Right. And had I lost that injunctive hearing, then the ACLU would have played slow ball and drugged this out for 2, 3, 4 years. All the while, children are being mutilated. I said, Judge, I will agree to a 90-day injunction, but on the 91st day, I want a hearing. The judge and the ACLU approved. For 90 days, Oklahoma was vulnerable, but in those 90 days, I recruited a physician and a psychologist, prepared them, and on the 91st day, we had the hearing, and we won. Oh. We defeated the injunctive relief, and then the ACLU was motivated to try the case because that's the only way that they could continue to mutilate children. And so we tried that case, and I won. So one person stood between the protection of youth and the ACLU. That's me. I protected our youth. So today in Oklahoma, you cannot mutilate a child. Now, 18 and on, if you want to hang out with candidates that chop bananas, knock yourself out. But this candidate, this attorney general, protected our youth.
Gentner, some voters around the state have raised concerns about political donations. First, pointing to a refunded contribution to Joe Biden that was mistakenly made in your name, and also to your wife Wendy's donation to the anti-Trump Lincoln Project in 2020. What do you say to those voters who question whether this makes you unfit to be the Republican nominee for governor?
Of first importance, I love my wife. I adore Wendy. I respect her. She is a remarkable wife, partner, businesswoman, lawyer. She's served on national, regional, and community, nonprofit, and for-profit boards. But she's an independent thinker, and not in this world would I try to tell her how to think or how to act. She's an independent actor. I, on the contrary, stand with Trump. She did make a contribution to Biden with a credit card that was a joint credit card. It came back, thank you, Gentner Drummond. She saw that, immediately canceled. No money went to Biden. But she did make a contribution to the Lincoln Project, and that is her business. I, on the contrary, there is not a single elected or appointed official in the state of Oklahoma that has given more to support President Trump than I. During the last election cycle, I co-hosted an event with Senator Mullen where I gave President Trump $50,000 to support his candidacy in his America First agenda. Since that time, since I've been elected, I have stood with President Trump every occasion. We've pushed back on Biden 17 times with victories. I've stood with President Trump on criminal justice, border security, deportation of illegals, shutting down illicit and illegal crime organizations in the state of Oklahoma. I partner with President Trump at every turn. I always have. I always will.
Now, General Drummond, we're going to close out with just some fun questions that we've gotten from folks. First off, what nickname do your grandkids have for you and why?
This is embarrassing. They call me Gummy. With the first name of Gentner, you can imagine as a beginning speaker, I couldn't say Gentner. I said Gummy. And so if somebody said, what's your name? I'd say Gummy. And then they'd say, oh, Gummy. I go, no, Gummy. Because they were saying the wrong word back to me. So my siblings always called me Gummy as we were growing up. And they thought it was so funny when my oldest granddaughter got to the age where she started speaking and they primed her to say, call me Gummy. So they call me Gummy. They call Wendy GT. And it's a fun name.
Fantastic. So again, you're Attorney General and you've been busy running a campaign for governor. How do you do both? And then also, how do you unwind and recharge your batteries?
It's a busy schedule. And the only way to do this is to be disciplined. And I am a leader that has lieutenants below me that are highly skilled, best in the state of Oklahoma. And they're empowered and equipped to implement my strategic decisions on a tactical basis. So it's organized, I'm well-informed, and I have a great force around me as the Attorney General. As the candidate for governor, it's coincidental that 100% of the day, I'm also the Attorney General, and I'm also running for governor. So anywhere I am, anywhere throughout the state, I'm not only delivering on my role as Attorney General, but I'm also giving people the opportunity to see me and talk to me and have access to me and ask questions. We spend 4 nights a week in Oklahoma City, where our principal office is. We spend 1 night a week in Tulsa, where our alternate office is, or secondary office. And then 2 nights a week, it's so very important to me to be back on the cattle ranch in Osage County with Wendy, where we can have peace and quiet. Our children and grandchildren can come to visit, and we get to worship among my faith church in Pawhuska. That's great. And all of that, I have to be recharged spiritually and physically, emotionally. And I do that at the ranch. And then every Monday morning, it's off to the races.
Last question. What's a book, quote, or scripture that's had a big impact on you over the last year?
We've talked about my work day. It's a long day. I put a suit on in the morning, 15 hours later, I take it off. It is exhausting. I oftentimes, when I'm feeling my lowest and most vulnerable, I recall a passage out of Isaiah where the prophet says, even youth grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up on wings of eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. That passage gives me encouragement and recharges me emotionally, spiritually, physically, every day.
That's great. Gentner Drummond, thank you, sir. That wraps up this special Q&A episode of Bold Ideas with Gentner Drummond. Your voice matters, and your engagement is what this campaign is all about. If we didn't answer your question today, don't worry. We're going to be doing more of these in the future. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your content so you never miss an episode. And visit drummondok.com to learn more about Gentner's vision for Oklahoma and how you can get involved. We'll see you next time on Bold Ideas.
This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.